Good morning, afternoon, and evening, guys. You're locked into Conscious Minds TV with myself, DVG. And today I also have two very, very special guests, Erin and Lily, my amazing syncretism sisters. And what today's video is basically what will be titled is Astro Theology in Islam Revisited. I did a video with Santos about 3 years ago where I did some research and I was presenting some information to him about astrology and occultism in Islam. But obviously, since then, I've researched a lot more and have a bit more of a clearer picture of how things are, and things that a few things were pointed out to me by some people that I'd slightly misinterpreted, which I'm also gonna kind of slightly correct once I get my slides up. But yeah, so it's kind of expounding upon that video I did with Santos 3 years ago, but now I have much more clearer information and I just want to present it because it's such valuable information. I think people need to see it. And also another important thing I want to say as well is that if any Muslim brothers and sisters are watching this, I want to say that I'm not doing this video. It's not against Islam or to debunk it, or it's nothing like that. If anything, I feel like I'm adding to it and giving people the deeper meanings to all the traditions and all the rituals and everything that goes on. So I feel like I want to give people more of a deeper meaning of why they're doing particular things rather than, like, I feel like a lot of us in life, we just like follow blindly, but we don't really know the true meanings behind all these things that we do. And ultimately, that's the aim of what I do. And it's not to like rubbish any religion or any doctrine. It's to like show the deeper esoteric meaning and show how everything is connected. So I just wanted to say that before we start, so like people don't think I'm trying to like it's an attack or something. It's not that at all. It's just giving things a bit of a deeper meaning.
That's so
And
well
also, yeah, I wanted you guys here as well because once I get my slides up, we're going to be looking at some like astrology charts, and I wanted you guys to have your say on what you see in the chart and how you would interpret it. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do today. So, whenever you guys are ready, I can share my screen. But before we do that, actually, is there anything you guys want to say?
Not really. I think actually that recording that you did with Santos years ago, that's how I found you.
Yeah,
And
that's how we connected. That's right.
it's like, I gotta get to know this guy. This is intense. And yeah, that video is just so incredible. And if the people who are watching this haven't seen that, maybe you should put a link
Yeah,
to the first one.
I will do.
I'll do that one. Yeah.
For sure, I will do. And yeah, it's just that, like I said, I found out so much more since doing that video. It's like, even when I watch that video now, I still like it, but because I know more than what I did back then, it's like I feel like it's not complete because I didn't have more pieces to add to it. But now I've got more pieces. Hopefully, people will get a bit more of a clearer picture. But I just want to start off with um, a verse in the Quran. It's from the chapter Jonah. And I think I read this when we did our show last time when it was just us three, but it weren't specifically about this subject. But I just want to read it because I think it will be a good way to start the show off because like astrology in Islam, it's almost seen quite a taboo thing in Islam. That it's like it's forbidden and it's like yeah, it's not really seen as a good thing. But I want to read something in here that I find contradictory to that, and we can start the show off with that if that's all right.
Yeah.
So let me just find it. So it's chapter 10, Jonah. Right, and it starts from verse 5, and it says, "It is he who made the sun a shining radiance and the moon a light, determining phases for it, so that you might know the number of years and how to calculate time. God did not create all these without a true purpose. He explains his signs to those who understand. In succession of night and day, and in what God created in the heavens and the earth, there are truly signs for those who are aware of him. Those who do not expect to meet us and are pleased with the life of this world, contenting themselves with it and paying no heed to our signs, shall have the fire for their homes because of what they do. So I don't know how Muslims come to a conclusion that astrology is, or knowing the heavens is a bad thing, because in the Quran it blatantly states that those who know the heavens will go to the good place, and those who are stuck in materialism and concentrated like on earth will go to the hellfire. So I just wanted to start off with that verse, and I just it baffles me sometimes how people read things but they seem to miss out things, or they just don't pay no attention to particular verses. And it's funny because I watch a lot of religious videos and debates, and I've never ever heard anyone just speak about that verse. Do you get what I mean? Like, whereas there's so many of these little things within the whole book, but it just seems to be, it feels like people just use what suits them. Do you get what I mean? Rather than taking every little section and reading it. But yeah, I just wanted to start off with that. There's a lot more in here about the seven heavens. There's a whole chapter on the constellations. But again, I'm going to go through that once I go through my slides. So when you guys are ready, I can share my screen and we can get going.
Lily, do you want to add anything to that? No? Okay. All right. Okay, let's see here. Let me make you host, Mehmet.
Okay, no problem.
And make host. There we go.
Okay, so share screen, desktop, share. Right. So can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this slide, what it is, this slide is actually from this book. But because the reason why I bought this book, which is called Allah, the Quran, Venus and You, is because I found some of it in PDF form, but it wasn't the whole book.
Oh.
So I've got quite a lot of pages of this book on here, which I will read from the screen, as it will be easier rather than reading from the book. But I'll also read from here because I don't have some of the pages I don't have on PDF. So I'm going to read from both. But this is just like an introduction from the author. And he says, the Quran speaks against fortune telling, which Muslims have concluded is astrology. Surah Al-Maidah 5:3 commands, forbidden is also to use arrows seeking luck or decision, all that is of disobedience of Allah and sin. In Arabic, the word burj means constellations or zodiac signs, like in Hebrew, the word Mazaroth found in the book of Job. The Quran has a surah chapter called Burj in the 85th chapter, and is dedicated to the constellations or the zodiac. Thus, the Quran could not be anti-astrology, as most Muslims have been taught. The following verses from the Quran, here are some following verses from the Quran and speaks about the zodiac. So as you can see, I swear by the sky where there are the Burj. Burj means constellation. And he says, I have created the Burj on the sky and decorated them for viewers, and I have also protected them from evils. How great he is who has created the Burj in the sky and placed the sun and the shining moon over there. In Arabic, the word for astrologer is munajim. Astrology is il al-najum, and the word for astronomy is il al-hay, Arabic for astronomy. Certain Muslim sects refer to the Prophet Enoch or Idris in Arabic as the founder or science of the stars. So that's just like an introduction from that book,
Yeah.
Allah, Venus, Quran, and you.
Can you pronounce that word one more time? What is it? Baruj?
Burj.
Baruj. Okay.
Yeah. I've actually did some etymology on it. It's the same word as like berg or borough, or the
Okay.
word it comes from that basically.
Well,
I think it's interesting that Enoch, like they're saying that about Enoch, because I learned something recently about Enoch and the pit. Like he was thrown in a pit. Is that true? Like a friend of mine who I believe is Jewish taught me this, and she was kind of talking about it being like Joseph being thrown in the pit, and it's like the pit of Tartarus, and then in the pre-Socratics, when I'm reading, like they're talking about how the four rivers like come together in this pit of Tartarus, and that's the four elements, and like the arising of reality coming out of that, right? But that would be like Enoch, and I just think that's interesting. Do you guys know more about that, about Enoch? Did he get thrown in a pit?
I don't know about that, but it's funny you mentioned Enoch, because it comes up later in one of my other slides, because in the Islamic theology, Enoch is known as Idris, who is known as the sun, basically.
wow.
So that's going to be relevant when I read more things later on. But going to the next slide, this is just a recap. I did do this in the first video, but I just want to do a little recap on how the Islamic calendar works. And it's a lunar calendar, it's based on the moon. So I'll just read this quickly. It says the Islamic or Hijra calendar is made up of 12 lunar months. Traces of Jewish holidays like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, the Passover, the Shavuot, Pentecost are still evident in this calendar. However, because of the structural changes in the Islamic calendar, the Jewish and Islamic celebration of these holidays coincides only once in every 33 years. So what that is, because basically the Islamic calendar is lunar, it's 354 days, which is 10 days less than a solar calendar. So every year, the new year goes back 10 days in the solar calendar. So for example, if just say the first day of Muharram, which is the first month of the Islamic calendar, is on the 10th of August this year, the next year it will be on the 1st of August. So it goes back 10 days every year. And for it to come back to the exact same solar day, it takes 33 years, ironically. And obviously that number is very significant in occult knowledge. And also that connects with the moon cycle with the sun, because obviously, like after 33 days would be when you'd get a new moon as well. So again, because obviously it's 28 days, isn't it, until from one new moon to another. Yes. Then after that, it's like a resurrection, basically, because that's why Jesus was resurrected at 33. So the correlation between the moon and sun also creates that number 33 as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also it says here the Islamic calendar is made up of 12 lunar months. The Hijri year is therefore 354 days. This means that any given month will migrate throughout the solar year. Each Islamic year starts about 11 days earlier each Gregorian solar year. The Islamic year is considered to have started at the sunset of Thursday, the 15th of July, 622 on the Julian calendar. This is going to be really relevant when I get to my next slide. So yeah, so this explains basically the names of the months, so of each month here. But what, like I said when I was speaking to you off air, what I did in my last video, the way I syncretized it, I understood that the Islamic lunar calendar started in Virgo Libra time, and that was the start of it. But then when someone questioned me on it, they said, no, that's wrong. Like it does sometimes. But then when I looked further into it, into this paper, which is correlating the Islamic and the Jewish calendar, I then found that basically what I did was this is the way I syncretized it in the last video, but what I syncretized was the pre-Islamic calendar. So I just wanted to add that in for people who have seen the first one, is that's where I kind of had a bit of a misunderstanding. So I just wanted to correct that, because I feel as a researcher, if you don't get something right first time, you have to do your research and correct it. So that's just a slight correction I wanted to make, basically. So yeah. And interestingly, again, this next one is my own syncretism. I think that the reason why the Muslims do use a lunar calendar, because if you look at Mecca, it's right on the Tropic of Cancer. So obviously Cancer is ruled by the moon. So this is probably what may have influenced them to have a lunar calendar, or to be more moon based.
Wow.
Go ahead, Lily. You're
Sorry,
muted.
I muted myself because my computer's a little loud, but I think that they're a lunar civilization because they're more like the blue path, and like that like it's like a juxtaposition against Christianity. I mean, this might be a little bit polemical, but I think that they knew Christianity was wrong, you know? And so you see, even on their flag, they have a moon and a star, right? So they're like a more matriarchal culture. I also think that the Jews may be this way, but also the the Tibetans still follow a lunar calendar as well. The esoteric schools still follow a lunar calendar as well, and it's more of a matriarchal approach. And I just sometimes wonder, you have to think that the people that were in the Muslim empire at the time that Christianity started had to know that some shifty stuff was going on, right? And so like I just wonder about that. Whereas, Christianity is very right-hand path, it's very solar, it's very red shift. And so I just wonder, I mean, I could be wrong and I don't know anything really about this. I know a little bit. I've taken a couple classes in college on the Quran, but just like, I just think about it that way. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. Like, I actually agree, because like the way I see it, like generally speaking, I see, because the Jewish calendar is both, it's lunar solar, because they kind of have like leap years so that it can line up seasonally. Whereas, and then I feel like the Christianity is mainly solar and Islam is mainly lunar. Do you get what I mean? And that's the way I see it. That's more of a general way of looking at it. But when you look into Islam deeply, which I'm going to show you, it's got many themes. It's very Venetian. It's very based on the moon. It's also got a lot of sun symbolism, a lot of Saturn symbolism. So all the religions have bits and bobs of all, but I think Islam, I would kind of, the two main luminaries that it's based on, from my understanding, would be the moon and Venus. And like you said, a more feminine, it has a more feminine feel to it. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Lily. No? Okay. So I'll go on. So also another code in the Quran, I found this from a Sufi website called the Muhammadan Way, is you see all these months that are written, the way that they're encoded in the Quran through the 9 times table. So you can find out about each month by going to chapter 9. Like, so the first month would be in chapter 9, the second month would be in 18, and so on. So by going through each one of by going through the 9 times table, you can find out about each month in the Quran. So the first month would be in chapter 9, the second month would be in chapter 18, the third month would be in chapter 27. So that's like a little code that's hidden within the Quran. So I don't know if any of you guys want to add anything.
No, I'm just really enjoying all of this.
Cool.
I feel like there's going to be several times where I'm going to have like the brain explosion thing going on.
Yeah, there's loads. And also another thing, what's interesting is, I'll show this later, but the number 9, in English gematria, Islam comes to 54, which reduces to 9 as well. So in gematria, it's Islam equals 54 and Allah equals 7. But I'm going to get into that as we go along and what that all means as well, and how it connects to Leo and Cancer, and because Leo is 5 and Cancer is 4. But yeah, I'll carry on anyway. But yeah, so also this is a nut from a book called The Jewish and Mohammedan Calendars, and what it's explaining is that in the Muslim calendar, the day starts at sunset. No, the day starts. No. I'll just read it. So it says the hours are reckoned from 1 to 12, and then from 1 to 12 again. Sunset being the close of the last hour. 1 hour after sunset, which is when the sun sets at 6 p.m., we should all call 7 o'clock in the evening, but is with the Mohammedans 1 o'clock in the night. 2 hours after sunset is 2 o'clock, and so on. So our 6 o'clock in the morning is 12 o'clock with them. So 6 a.m. for us is midday for them, if that makes sense. So it kind of correlates with, like the Bible, it says, and then there was the evening and then the day.
Yeah.
It correlates with that, basically. Go ahead, Lily.
It really correlates with the sine wave as well, because like the out breath begins at 12 midnight, or the beginning of say the red shift that starts to climb begins at midnight, but at the halfway point there at 6 a.m. we call 6 a.m. is actually the midday, is actually the middle
exactly
of that wave. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's pretty much what that's saying. But the reason I'm reading that is because it coincides with a chart that I'm going to show you guys now. So that's why I've read that part, basically. So let me find the chart. Is okay. Can you guys see this chart?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to move you guys over here. So this is the chart for the first day of the Islamic lunar calendar. So another thing as well, the first day of an Islamic month always starts on new moon. So you can see that this is the case here, because you can see the sun in Cancer and then the moon in Leo. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, this conjunction going all the way through here, as you can see, from the 7th house and into the 6th house. And also it's ironic, because what I just read about how the day starts once the sun set, and look, you can see the sun has just set here, and it's in the 6th house. Yeah. So that's really interesting, and I think I've shown you this before, Erin. We spoke about it briefly, but what the whole point of looking at this chart is this chart and this chart and the birth chart of Prophet Muhammad, if you can both look, the cardinal houses are the fixed signs. So you can see Aquarius rising, Taurus IC, Leo 7th, and Scorpio 10th. Mm-hmm. But then when you go, and this is the first day of the Islamic lunar calendar, so it's based on the fixed signs. But then when you go to the chart of the Prophet Muhammad, it's the same, ironically.
Fixed
you
signs.
see, he's got an Aquarius rising. But what's interesting as well, if you look at a lot of his placements, they are in the fixed houses. Yeah. So he's got Aquarius rising, his sun is in Taurus,
Zero
his moon in Leo, and then he's got a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the 9th house in Scorpio.
Yeah.
So it's really, so as you can see, it's based a lot on the fixed signs. Yeah. But how I came across this was, there is a man in Turkey, he's called Ayhan Özcimbit, and he's got a channel called Islamic Astrology, and he wrote this book. It's called The Codes of Kaaba, it's in Turkish basically. And what he's explained is that the four corners of the Kaaba in Mecca are the four fixed signs of the zodiac, basically. So the eastern side is Aquarius and deals with the element of air. The northern side is Taurus and deals with the element of earth. The west side is Leo and deals with the element of fire. And then the south side is Scorpio and deals with the element of water. But the reason why this is because from Kaaba, most of the land is north of Kaaba. You got like Eurasia and all that land. So that's why Earth represents the north side of Kaaba. And then west of the Kaaba is the Sahara, where it's hot and dry. So then that's why it corresponds with Leo and fire. And then the south of the Earth is where there is most of the oceans. So this is why it correlates with the element of water and Scorpio. And then obviously the east is where the sun rises, so it correlates with air and Aquarius. But also, the first four chapters of the Quran are based on the four fixed signs of the zodiac. If you read, the first one is Al-Fatiha, which is kind of a declaration. And you know they go around the Kaaba 7 times. Well, there's 7 verses in the first chapter. So these are the 7 principles of Islam. So, and this deals with Aquarius and air and I know, like knowledge. And Saturn as well, being number 7 and being ruled, Saturn rules Aquarius.
Okay.
So, was you going to say something, Lily?
Yeah, well, I thought it would be cool kind of I laughed because when you said the south corner was water, I was like, oh yeah, of course, because think about the Prophet Muhammad's chart and how he had that big Jupiter conjunction on the midheaven in Scorpio in water in the south, right? Like that lines up perfectly with this. And I was also going to say, but I don't want to detract from point, but so I won't explain it fully, but just to say that in Tibetan Buddhism and in esoteric practice, potentially, if I'm extrapolating from one to the other, that like we do the same things where we put elements on the corners. And that I think that potentially that they're choosing the elements for a reason based on what happens at that angle too. Like I like what you've said here about the countries, and I think you're probably 100% right. I'm just like saying another point is that in our own practice, or how do we work with this, that they put like different elements there, because like what's rising in the east is what you want rising, what's on the southern is like what you're known for, which setting is like relational and whatever you're dealing with setting, and then what's in the north is kind of what you want to rework or let die and reborn or whatever. So it's kind of the hardest angle, and we kind of want to like put the hardest thing there. So it's just kind of interesting to think about these angles and how different religions, what element they put there, because we know that the 4 corners actually have an element, right? Like we know that anyway, according to seasons, they have a certain temperament. So that means that they have a certain energy that they do, and then we can put the elements there to do that energy to the element.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Exactly. And what's really interesting as well with this, what he's syncretized, is that each element or each sign is coincides with a particular saint in Islam. So Aquarius coincides with Ali. Taurus coincides with someone called Abu Bakr. Leo coincides with someone called Imran, and Scorpio coincides with someone called Osman. But when you understand who these characters are, it makes even more sense. So, for example, right, Abu Bakr, they say, was Muhammad's closest companion, right? But the word Bakir in Turkish or in Arabic means copper. And we know copper relates to the sign of Venus and Taurus. So this one is Taurus. But when we go, for example, if I go back to Prophet Muhammad's chart and they say, so Prophet Muhammad would be the sun, and his closest companion was Abu Bakr. And like I said, Bakr means copper. But if we look, Venus is right next to the sun.
Yep.
So you see that. Well, I've not. That's what makes sense to me, and I know that would probably make sense to you guys. But that really, really stood out for me when I saw that. Basically, so that makes loads of sense, like astrologically, or people who understand astrology. But going back to this, also, if you look at this guy here, he's called Imran, the one who corresponds with Leo. But when I looked at who Imran is in Christian theology, it's Joachim or Joachim. I don't know how you pronounce it. Like, do you know the pronunciation, Lily?
Of the pillar or just Joachim?
Yeah, Joachim. Yeah, it's basically it's the husband of Saint Anne, basically. But Saint Anne and also he is the father of the Virgin Mary. So what it seems like to me is if Imran's husband is Saint Anne, Anne would be Cancer, Imran would be Leo, and his daughter would be Virgo, who is Imran's daughter is the Virgin Mary, basically. So that makes sense because it corresponds with like the summer season, if that makes sense. If you're catching that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another thing that yeah, that really made sense to me. And I started syncretizing. I was like, oh my God, it's making even more sense now. And is there anything else that I wanted to add to this part? I'll move on to the next slide and it might start coming to me. But is there anything else that you guys wanted to add to it?
No.
No? Okay. But yeah, like there is a lot more to this that guy explains, but I suggest you go to his channel. It's called Islamic Astrology, and watch the videos, and he explains it in a lot more detail because there's so many things I want to explain. I can't go through every single thing in detail. I'm just kind of giving you the key points here to see how it's all syncretizing with like the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, basically.
Yeah. Send me his channel, and Lily too, if you're going to post this on. I was going to say we should put those links, all these links.
Yep, we'll put them in the description for sure. But so is there anything else? Yeah, so this again just is like it's just showing like an aerial view of the Kaaba and how it works. So obviously we know a box is a cross. So what the guy explains is like, and what the guy explains is basically the way you crucify yourself symbolically is that you see, like, for example, each verse is about each thing. So like, each corner of the Kaaba is about each fixed sign. So the north is about Taurus. So what he's explaining is that, and Taurus is about money and possessions. So if you use that mode in a corrupt way, then that side of the Kaaba will fall down. So everyone who sins, that box will then fall down and become a cross, which then you'll be crucified, basically. Rather than if you're pure, the box won't collapse and it will stay as one, is what he's explained. It's all written in Turkish, but that's what he's explaining, basically.
Have you explained this to me before, or have I heard this from somebody else?
Maybe I've explained it to you briefly.
There's a channel, he doesn't really do YouTube so much anymore, but I'm thinking maybe this guy Crow 777 has talked about this before.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, so so obviously as well, we know in tarot the Wheel of Fortune is based on the 4 fixed signs, which is also to do with Yahweh or Jehovah, Yod He Vah. And what's interesting that in Jewish gematria, Yod He Vah comes to the number 26. But when you add up the 4 fixed signs, 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus 11 also equals 26. But the name of God or Yahweh is also 26. And 26 all like comes to number 8, and then you see you got the 8-spoke wheel. So you can see like the connections of how it correlates to like the Bible and the wheel of Ezekiel, which I'm going to show you now as well. But go on, Lily, you was going to say something. Say it while it's on your mind.
I was thinking the wheel of Ezekiel. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But yeah, so here it is. Yeah, so it says their faces look like this. Each of the four had a face of a man, and on the right side, each had the face of a lion. On the left, the face of an ox, and then the face of an eagle. Obviously, the man is Aquarius, the eagle is Scorpio, the ox is Taurus, and the lion is Leo, obviously. But yeah, and interestingly, like what I did, these are the whiteboards I did for the Syncretism Society. And when you get like the Arabic correlation of the word Yod He Vahe, so it's Yah, Ha, Wa, Ha, which is Yahweh. So Yod is in Arabic Yah.
Okay.
Hey is Ha, so Yaha, and then Vav is Wa, and then Ha again. So that's Yah, Ha, Wa, Ha, Yahweh, Yahweh.
Oh,
So it's based all on Yahweh. But the thing I've always had a problem with is I don't know if Yahweh is the supreme being or it's more of a demigod. What's your interpretation on that, Lily? Because in this book, it says that Yahweh is more of a material god rather than the supreme being.
I don't know, except for the fact that I think the supreme being is probably not in, like, there's a realm and that the supreme being is above it, and everything else we can conceptualize, speak to, anything else would be not that being. And so I would think that Yahweh is the demiurge right under that is actually the creator of everything. And that seems to be what I've been reading a lot lately about, like I mentioned, the pre-Socratics and how that connects with Sufism and stuff. And that seems to be what they're saying.
Yeah, I totally agree as well, because it just like it's so, you can just see it in all this symbolism. It's there that because if you look at the word, for example, here Allah comes to number 7. We know 7 is the number of materialism and the 7 colors of the electromagnetic spectrum, whereas Islam comes to 9, and 9 is more of a spiritual number. And also Allah comes to 7, and so does Yahweh in English gematria. So that's very telling to me. But like, I don't know, maybe certain people would disagree, but this is what I've found basically. So yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that, Lily. But yeah, even regardless of the Islam thing, there's some really, really interesting ones here. Like for example, pineal, which is your third eye, reduces to 3. The word tetragrammaton, which is the 4-name word for God, reduces to 4. Like there's so many interesting little connections here. A, E, I, O, U, all the vowels equals 33. But yeah, these are just stuff I did, not necessarily in relation to Islam. It's just gematria that I did. Anything else? Yeah, I did like again a 369 thing with the Kabbalah, and I syncretized it with Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, because obviously the 9th Sephiroth is the moon, and Islam comes to 9, so that's how I basically syncretized it. But moving on. Yeah, so again, like I said, Allah comes to 34, which equals 7. And then I saw this T-shirt which had Allah, and you had the number 7, and then you got like the moon and star. And it was funny because I was watching Santos one day, and I'm just going to put my light on because it's a bit dark in my room. 1 second. Santos was saying that the sighting of a new moon is 7% of the moon as well. But you know, he always talks about underneath the rays, like if any planet is 15 degrees either way of the sun, it won't be seen until it goes 16 degrees away. But it's interesting because 16 also is reduces to the number 7 as well. So that's just, again, my own little syncretism that I made. I haven't read this. This is just from my own connections, basically.
I love the way your brain works.
But yeah, so then there's that. This was sent to me.
Yeah, that's super cool.
A brother.
It's like little confirmations of, but you know, like from the argument by design, you know.
Is that, were you talking about the 7 thing, Lily? Or are you talking about this picture?
Yeah, and just my internet connection's not great, but yeah, all the gematria and the way that it works. I mean, it's like, it's just confirmation from the argument by design that there has to be some sort of God or some sort of higher power that in the beauty of the design of everything, because you just couldn't make it up, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too perfect.
It's either that or there's just one, or it could just be the demiurge who created all this thing to just line up perfectly, and once you get to a particular way of seeing things, you can work it all out. That's the way I see it. But a brother sent this to me on Facebook, and this blew my mind. This is Mecca, but you can see it looks like the dollar bill, and this is like the eye from a bird's eye position. But I'll show you more pictures as well now when I scroll through. Yeah, so like you can see it there, like this would be the iris, and people going round would be like the eye and stuff. So yeah. And also, they're saying that it was based on before it become monotheistic, Mecca was, they say, there was a lot of idol worship there. So, and they say it was based on like a triple goddess, like which connects to like a lot of the Sumerian stuff of Alat, Manat, and Al-Uzza. And yeah, he sent me this, and I was like, wow, like it's really interesting. And you can see the pyramid as well, like the 2 pillars as well, and then the middle pillar. Because this connects with like the whole Kabbalah of like the pillar of severity, the pillar of unity, and the pillar of wisdom. So it connects with all that stuff as well.
Is that black and white checkered floor too? Is that what's going on?
I don't know if that's real. I think it might be in the picture. Someone might have added that. I don't think that's
okay.
I don't know though, if I'm being honest.
Good eye, Erin. I didn't see that. That's funny though.
1 second. What am I?
The pictures of the of Mecca as an eye sort of freaked me out a little bit, looked a little scary, right? And it reminded me of 2001 Space Odyssey, and that like black box that's like kind of freaky. And I just like, I don't know what the connection is, but my imagination just like immediately went there, and I was like, it's just a little freaky, huh?
Right.
I haven't seen it. Unfortunately, I'm not a movie person.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of symbolism, a lot of connections.
Yeah, like the movies are a whole nother like thing. There's so much in movies.
There really is.
Moving on, when you become a Muslim, there's something called a shahada. It's like you have to say something. It's like swearing to an oath kind of thing, basically. And even that is astrological, and I'm going to read to you again. That is from this book here. That is from this book. and I'll read what it says and then I'll explain it in more detail. It says, therefore, when one reads the Quran with this view must be employed as it is with the Holy Bible. Let us begin with an examination of the pillars of Islam. The first one is called the Shahada and sometimes called the Kalima, meaning the word or declaration. So every time when you become a Muslim, you have to say this thing basically. When a Muslim takes their Shahada, they say in Arabic, La ilaha illallah, which means there is no God but Allah. When you look at this saying in Arabic, you immediately notice that it is 4 words which represent the 4 cardinal points as the 4 corners of the Kaaba. The second is the syllables in the Kalima. The Kalima is seven representative of 7 visible planets, 7 chakras, and the number of circumambulations around the Kaaba. Lastly, the Kalima has 12 Arabic letters for the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 cardinal nerves, and the 12 zodiacal signs. So what it's saying is that declaration that you make has 7 syllables and is made up of 12 letters. So 7 is the planets, and the 12 words, 12 letters are the 12 signs. So if I say it out, you will see it is actually 7 syllables. So it's La ilaha illa Allah, which is 7. And that is the Shahada. That's what you have to say when you declare yourself as a Muslim. So yeah, it's 7 syllables and 12 words. 7 and 12 equal 19. 1 and 9 equal 1. So that's unity. And Adam also equals 19 as well. The name Adam. So again, you can see there's also that symbolism even within the declaration. You've got the 7 and 12 hidden inside it. And this is from a book. I can't remember the exact name, but it's by Henry Corbin. I knew Lily would know who that is. But yeah, he says here we can refer to the only doctrines of the 2 main branches of Shiism. Anyone who don't know, Islam is kind of based into 2 main sects, which is Sunni and Shia. Sunni would be more of a literal interpretation, whereas the Shias have more of an esoteric interpretation. So it says the 2 main branches of Shiism, 12 are Shiism or simply Imamism, and 7 are Shiism or Ismailism. In both cases, the numbers express a conscious symbolism, while 12 are Imamology symbolizes with the heaven of the 12 zodiacal constellations as the 12 springs which gushed from the rock struck by Moses' rod. The 7 are Imamology of Ismailism symbolizes the 7 planetary heavens and the wandering stars. A constant rhythm is thereby expressed. Each of the 6 great prophets had his 12 imams, who were homologous with each other. Ismaili gnosis, the number 12 is transferred through the hujjah of the imam. For 12 imamism, the pleroma of the 12 has been achieved. The last of them was and remains the 12th imam, the imam of this time, Sahib al-Zaman, the imam who is hidden from the senses but present to the heart, present both in the past and future. We shall see how the idea of the hidden imam is par excellence expresses of the religion. The rest of it I cut off because it wasn't relevant basically. But yeah, you can see in the Shia sect of Islam, they have more numerology and connect it more with astrology. So, because the thing is, like,
I believe.
Go ahead, Lily. You're muted.
Oh, I was going to say, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what I was going to say is everything I've just presented to you, I knew none of this 3 years ago when I did the show with Santos, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's so inspirational to find all this out, if that makes sense, because it makes you think, oh, I wasn't going mad. I was on the right path, thinking what I was thinking, if that makes sense. But yeah, let's move on from this. So yeah, obviously this I mentioned in the last show about how the 7 rotations are the 7 planets, and that's all that this is mentioning. I'm not going to read it because it's something I've mentioned before. And what I'm going to do as well with some of the slides, I won't go through them, but anyone watching this can just pause it and read them as well, because it's just going to take too long if I read all of every single thing.
Yeah, good idea.
So now what I want to kind of look into more is like some like occult stuff in relation to like the sun and moon that is in the Quran. So for example, it said word counts in the Quran. So the word moon is mentioned 27 times in the Quran, while the moon completes one orbit around the earth in 27.3 days. The word day in singular, non-specific form is mentioned 365 times, just like there are 365 days in a solar year. When we word count the sun, we see that is mentioned 33 times. Every 33 years, the sun and moon calendar gets synchronized, which is what I mentioned earlier. But obviously that relates to the whole Jesus symbolism of 33 and the sun, and it's going to relate to the Prophet Muhammad as well as I go further along. Yeah. But moving on, what is so interesting as well is that the temperature surface of the sun is 5778 Kelvin. And in the Quran, from the first mention of the sun to the last mention of the sun, there are 5778 verses. So even that is encoded in it as well. These slides I got from a website called the Numerical Miracles in the Quran on Facebook. It's a page on Facebook. But I knew this before. My friend Eric from Holland told me about this. He put me onto this, but this is just a slide that's explaining it all basically. So you've got that like hidden in it as well. And you know what I find quite frustrating sometimes, like as well, they say how like personally, obviously, I know this is all very, very like this is amazing information and it's very deep information, but nevertheless, I don't take the scriptures literally, so I still think it was written by man. Do you get what I mean? But what Muslims always say is that, oh, there's all these numerical miracles. So it just goes to show that it was really the word of God. But hold on a second. If man has the brain to work all this out, then man could have written it at the same time. If we can decipher all this and see it all for what it is, then that means a man could have written it as well, someone who was clever or someone who just knows about universal knowledge. Ultimately, this is what all this is. It's just universal knowledge. So that's what I would say to that. Not to say that I'm not trying to discredit it. I'm just trying to say that like people try and make it to sound more spookier than it actually is, or more, like it must, like, no, it's just occult knowledge that's universal in all cultures, and they've encoded it within the Quran. Do you get what I mean? So that's all it is. It's not like, I mean, it is a mystery in a sense because not many people can see it, but like I said, like to us, this is just normal knowledge. It's nothing wow to us. It is and it isn't, but it's just what I'm trying to say is that if man knows this knowledge, then man could have also written it, you know. And again, I'm not saying that to discredit the Quran. I'm just saying that people have to try and be a bit more realistic and not be so gullible in what people tell them in how something was created, basically. I don't know if you want to add to that.
I do. Don't you also think though that like it was probably channeled? Like it's like we move out of our mind and let the Lord come through, or let spirit come through. And so and then we surprise ourselves at how smart we are, because I'm like, look at what I just did. I made 500,778 verses and it was totally perfect, right? But like I didn't do it. And that's what kind of sometimes gets weird in secular culture, because artists start to think they're so smart and they did it. And a lot of times an angel or something spoke through them. Right. So I do think there's something going on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Was going to point out that Henry Corbin kind of talks about, that these things, the revelations happen, and that it's not that they're not perfect in that moment, but that reality changes. It's constantly in flux. And so if we hold on to that like an icon or an idol, right? Like we idolize a word or a saying and say that's truth, then it turns into like a concrete statue. You know what I mean? Whereas we aren't being free enough with the truth. Truth is more flexible than that,
Yeah, totally.
So even though it's like perfectly numbered and you're like amazing, at the same time you can't, you got to grasp that lightly. You got to hold that lightly.
Yeah. Cool. So let me move on. Yeah, this is interesting about how the Quran mentions a sine wave as well in particular verses too. And it's all in here. So yeah, it talks about 2 bow lengths and stuff like that. But what else have we got? Yeah. So obviously these are like the sect of Islam as what is known as like Sufis, who like they're in Islam. I saw a video the other day. There was a guy who was saying like there's kind of 3 steps to Islam. So you got like the literal perspective, and then you got the middle perspective. You've got worshipping God, then you've got theology, and then you've got knowing God. And Sufism would come under that last section of knowing God. And the reason why I've got a picture of Sufis, because I'm just going to read a few things from their perspective and how they see things on more of a deeper esoteric level. So it says, fortunately for Islam, there is a sect of Muslims who do not read the Quran literally and take it symbolically. They are known as the Sufis. Online etymology dictionary defines Sufi as a member of a Muslim mystical order. From Arabic, Sufi literally meaning man of wool, i.e. man wearing woolen garments opposed to silk. It says, interestingly, the word Sufi is similar to the word Sophia, meaning wisdom in Greek. In medical astrology, known as, I'm not going to try and say that word, it's too long, astromathematics, Aries, the ram, the lamb, rules the head. The ram, the lamb, the wool wigs are worn by European judges as a sign of wisdom, signifying those with lamb's wool, also known as kinky nappy hair, as true caretakers of wisdom. Sufis seek various ways to enlighten by employing ancient practice of dhikr. The word dhikr is related to the Hebrew word for Adam called zakar, which means to remember. So that's just a little introduction on how the Sufis interpret the scriptures, and they see it more symbolically. Again, Sufism is best known as an esoteric or mystical dimension within the religion of Islam. So I've already explained that. Right. So now what we're going to do is move on to looking at, is there anything you want to add to that, guys?
No.
Cool.
I was just thinking about Sufis and about Rumi, and how Rumi is like, it's a little bit like Tantra, because Rumi is just absolutely in love with Shams. It's like all like he's just longing and so brokenhearted in love with Shams, who's the sun, right?
Yeah,
And like
exactly.
from that parable of light in the Quran and becoming like it. So I get how we're probably getting ready to go there, but like the sun, right, is also very astrological.
Yeah, which leads perfectly onto our next slide. And I want to talk about Prophet Muhammad and him being a symbol of the sun. And it's so crazy because I read this way before I bought this book. And then when I bought this book, it totally sealed it for me. But let me read. Again, this is from a Sufi website. It says, I will start just briefly that the Prophet and all of the prophets of divinely presence are the sun of our life. They are the center of our being, and within their hearts is Allah, the divinely light. Means that Allah Azza wa Jal can be found in the heart of the Rasulullah. Rasulullah is like another name for Muhammad. It means like a prophet. Where was I? Okay, our whole life is to circumambulate that reality, and like the sun of our dunya, the sun of our reality is in the understanding of the greatness of Sayyidina Muhammad, and means for us to understand when we see it in a circular form, we see it like the sun. We know that that Allah's divinely present is blessing the reality and the soul of Muhammad. The reality of Muhammad illuminates all of existence. So obviously, this Sufi website is correlating Muhammad to the sun. But what's interesting here, can you see the name Rasulullah here?
Yeah.
Well, it means it's called Rasulullah, or it's called Rasul, which when you break that down is Rasul. So that's the Rasul of Allah, basically. Muhammad would be the Rasul of Allah. But then when I go to the next slide, in the book, it said the story of the Prophet Muhammad marrying a 6-year-old Aisha is an allegory. Muhammad represents the sun and Aisha, Virgo, the virgin. When the sun enters Virgo, it's astrosexual, just like when the sun and moon consummate. To take a wild guess, what is the 6th sign in astrology? You guess it, Virgo. This is why Aisha is said to have been 6 when she married the Prophet. He had 13 wives because there are 13 lunar cycles. There is a prohibition against marrying more than 4 women. Why? Because of the 4-moon cycle, the new moon, the full moon. I've got the full, I'm going to read a bit extra from here, the rest of it. I have it in here. 1 second. I did mark the page, but I've lost it now. 1 minute.
No worries.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, this little piece blew up on Facebook, didn't it?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it did. It really did blow up.
Yeah.
I've marked the page as well. 1 second. Because it's got a bit more after it, and I want to read it. It gives it more. Here we go. So, yeah. So I'll read it from the start again. So the story of the Prophet Muhammad marrying a 6-year-old Aisha is allegory. Muhammad represents the sun and Aisha, Virgo or virgin. When the sun enters Virgo, it's astrosexual, just like when the sun and moon consummate. Take a wild guess, what is the 6th sign in astrology? You guess it, Virgo. This is why Aisha is said to have been 6 when she married the Prophet. He had 13 wives because there are 13 lunar cycles. There is a prohibition against marrying more than 4 women. Why? Because of the 4-moon cycle, the new moon, the full moon, the first quarter, and the last quarter. It's all cosmic, hence why the 54th surah, the moon's radius is 1008, half of 540. It's no coincidence. The story is no more real than Asar marrying his sister Aset, which is where Judaism got it with Abraham and Sarah, his sister and or wife, and repeated it over and over again. Samson and Delilah, or Adam and Lilith. Notice the root letters in Lilith and Delilah. When the ancients personified the planets, they created elaborate stories to teach us about the cosmos. As the sun goes through the 12th sign, it performs different tasks depending on the sign. For example, the rams were sacrificed when the sun entered the age of Aries, or goats when in the age of Capricorn, or cows in the age of Taurus. The sun impregnated women in Virgo. You can't eat shellfish in Cancer, aka the scarab or the crab. The sun became a fisherman in Pisces. So you see, Islam is no different in its allegory and storytelling about the sun, moon, and the planets, as well as hidden veneration for women. Pale Arab culture has supplanted the original goddess worship with phallus worship like its predecessor, Christianity. So I just wanted to read that little section on the screen in full so you can get more of a understanding of it.
Yeah, that's
so like, to me, that makes much more sense, that because it's never sat right with me that a prophet would marry a 6-year-old. I obviously knew it weren't true, literally, but now it makes even more sense reading this. Because obviously the 6th sign as well, being virgin to do with it, just all, it's there in your face if you've got the mind and if you open your heart to see it, it's all there. But you know, and what's oh yeah, also what I want to read is, I did this as a post and I want to actually read the post as well. So I've put, no prophet of God would marry a 6-year-old. The story is not literal but a metaphor. But you have people actually defending it because they think it's a real story when they know in their hearts it's wrong. It's symbolic of the sun being in the sign of zodiac of the Virgin Virgo. It also makes sense that Muhammad is the son, as he is known as Rasul or Rasulullah, the Rasul of Allah. Rasul in Norse means red-haired, just like the prophet and the rays of the sun. So the prophet was also red-haired as well. Go on, Lily.
Well, Ra is the sun god in Egypt, of course.
Exactly.
Hey, as to, yeah.
So, you know, it's all there, but I don't know. People have their blinkers on, I guess. I don't know. Or just maybe, you know, another thing I've come to notice, guys, is that not everyone's meant to get this knowledge from this perspective. So that's why I don't waste my time talking to other people, and just I'll explain it to you guys, because you guys will understand it and appreciate it, and it might help you like syncretize particular things. So anyone want to add anything to that?
I'm a little curious. Had you ever thought about that before, or was that just a total like, whoa, when you read that? Had you ever
What, the Virgo thing?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. That's why it really wowed me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is it. That is it. Because
Yeah.
it was so weird. On the day I was watching people debate about it, and I'm thinking, okay. And then I picked up my book and I just turned to a page, and it come to that page. I was like, wow, like this is it. Like I know the real reason now. And it was just like, and that's why I did the post about it, and it got like a lot of people have shared it, and a lot, which is good. And again, like I hope Muslims watching this can appreciate it and understand it, and maybe think, oh, okay, that's what it really means. But I don't. But again, whether they do or not, it's up to them. But yeah, I'm going to present the information, and what people do with it is up to them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but moving on again, like still concentrating on the Prophet Muhammad. There's a famous story. It's called the Night Journey, when Muhammad. I mentioned this in the first video I did with Santos, how when Muhammad rode to heaven on a white horse, I connected it with Pegasus, which is a deacon in Aquarius, and I thought, oh, it must have something to do with that. But then when I see that Muhammad was an Aquarius rising, I thought, oh, that's interesting. It makes even more sense now. But yeah, go ahead, Lily.
Well, just that Pegasus was born from the blood of Medusa's head, right? Since she was like a female that got totally disrespected by the male gods, which aligns with Islam a bit and the matriarchy.
Wow.
You know, right?
Yep. See, this is why I want you guys to be here as well to add your input to it. But yeah, but supposedly Muhammad flew to heaven on a white horse through the seven heavens. And in this book, again, I'll read it from the book because I don't actually have it on the slides, but it is, I know it's near the back, so I will find it. Oh, here we go. So yeah, so this is all to do with the hippocampus as well, basically. But this is going to be quite a long bit, so I'm just going to read it. So it says, where shall I start it from? It says, Europeans used this concept when created their cosmologies and religions to mirror what was illustrated in Egypt. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that attached to Ammon's horn is the amygdala, named after Mary Magdalene. The amygdala is attached to both ends of the hippocampus and is responsible for the fight or flight and euphoria feelings. The word hippocampus means seahorse in the Greek language. This is because it relates to the Greek cosmology of Pegasus, the white horse born out of the sea created by the god Poseidon. When you view the hippocampus, it looks like a seahorse. Thus, one can tell how the Greeks copied this concept of using parts of their brain to symbolize deities in their cosmologies. In the image of the white horse with wings that could fly also made its way into other cosmologies. Shango is shown with a white horse, Jesus rides a white horse, and the Prophet Muhammad rode a steed called Burak, which had the face of a woman, the wings of an eagle. According to the hadith of the Bukhari, it was described then a white animal which was smaller than a mule and bigger than a donkey that was brought to me. The animal's step reached the farthest point within the animal's sight. A hadith story allegedly written by the companions of Muhammad. A portion of this story is being transported from Mecca to Jerusalem. So basically, going from Mecca to Jerusalem is just going from your lower nature to your higher nature, which is why he went through seven heavens, which are your seven chakras and your seven planets. But I'm going to get into that more deeply. Where else? It says, interestingly, the description of the Al-Burak is very similar to the four beasts that surround the throne in the Holy Bible in Revelation 19. These four beasts that surround the throne represent the four zodiac signs associated with the fixed signs of the zodiac. Scorpio, eagle wings, Aquarius, face of a woman, Taurus, bull, and Leo, lion. This is also similar to Ha-Em-Aket, the Sphinx, which faces the rising sun in the east. So again, you see the four fixed signs symbology that connects to Muhammad's chart and the first day of Islam as well. So yeah, I just wanted to add that to this. But what I want to talk about now is, obviously, as we know, the scriptures ain't literal. So how did Muhammad really go to the seven heavens? Did he literally go there? Was it a meditation, or did he do it through psychedelics? And I've come across some interesting work, and which is what I'm going to discuss next. So this is from Manly P. Hall, and he explains this journey to heaven from Muhammad. It says, in the 7th surah of the Quran, it is written that upon a certain night, Muhammad was transported from the temple at Mecca to that of Jerusalem, but no details were given of this strange journey. Muhammad is made to describe his ascent through the seven heavens into the icy presence of the May-veiled God and his subsequent return to his own bed, all in a single night. Muhammad was awakened in the night by the angel Gabriel, who, after removing the prophet's heart, washed the cavity with Zamzam water and filled the heart itself with faith and science. A strange creature called the Al-Barak, or the lightning bolt, the lightning bolt was brought from the conveyance of the prophet. Al-Barak is described as a white animal of the shape and size of a mule, with the head of a woman and the tail of a peacock. According to some versions, Muhammad merely rode the Al-Barak to Jerusalem, where dismounting upon Mount Moriah, he caught hold of the lower rung of a golden ladder lowered from heaven and accompanied by Gabriel, and ascended through the seven spheres separating the earth from the inner surface of the Empyrean. At the gate of each sphere stood the patriarchs, whom Muhammad saluted, and as he entered various planes. At the gate of the first heaven stood Adam. At the gate of the second heaven stood John and Jesus. At the third, Joseph, and at the fourth, Enoch. At the fifth, Aaron, and at the sixth, Moses, and at the seventh, Abraham. Another order of the patriarchs is given, which places Jesus at the gate of the seventh house, and upon reaching this point, Muhammad is said to have requested Jesus to intercede for him before the throne of God. But then when I go to the next slide, and Lily, you give me this book, it's Mystical Astrology by Ibn Arabi. He explains the same thing. So he explains that, where shall I start from? Okay, let's start from the Islamic esotericism we know situates the functions symbolically in different planetary skies. According to this order of correspondences, which, however, cannot be understood except within the spiritual perspective and in some way within the cyclic of Islam, Abraham, Sayyidina Ibrahim, resides in the sky of Saturn, Moses in that of Jupiter, Aaron in that of Mars, Enoch in that of the Sun, Joseph in that of Venus, Jesus in that of Mercury, and Adam in that of the Moon. So it shows that these seven heavens or these seven patriarchs that Muhammad came across are symbolic of the seven heavens. But when you look at the etymology of some of these, to me, it makes sense that Aaron is Mars, because we know A and I are interchangeable. So then that would be iron. Aaron would become iron. Then iron is the metal of Mars. Yep. So it makes sense when you understand that. One thing which, like, when I first saw it, when I saw Jesus as Mercury, I thought, why? That's wrong, because Jesus is Jupiter. But then I think I've explained this to you, Erin, before, is that I see Mercury, well, obviously, just say Jesus is Jupiter, but he can be Mercury as well, because every sign that is ruled by Jupiter, the opposing sign is ruled by Mercury. So you got Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius. So it could be like a mirror image, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's how I made sense of Jesus corresponding with Mercury. But yeah, I don't know if Lily wants to add anything to this, or you, Erin, or...
No, go ahead, Lily.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna have to think on that Jesus Mercury thing for a while. That's a Cohen.
Yeah, I thought that as well, but then the only connection that I could make was that, again, astrologically, it's just like the Mercury Jupiter oppositions in the wheel, basically. That's the connection that I made that connects Jesus.
Well, Jesus was a teacher. Mercury's a teacher. Yeah. Jesus was also youthful. He's supposed to be the child of the sun, not the sun. right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is later the son, but he's the child of the son in a body when he's here, which, so there may be something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know, but this Enoch and the son thing brings me back to that pit again.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so there's something going on there. It's interesting. I'm sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off, Erin.
No, not at all. That's why I want you guys here, so you can add your interpretation to it, and you might spark my mind. Think, oh, okay, so like, no, that's why I want you guys to get involved, basically. But yeah,
I'm
so
gonna take some time to really like. In fact, I'm gonna.
yeah, of course. Obviously, it's quite heavy stuff, but I'm just, yeah, you're gonna have, once you read through it and you watch back and listen to it, Erin, you'd probably, if you read this yourself, you'd probably understand it more by you actually reading it and thinking, okay, rather than me explaining it fast, because I'm aware of it and I know.
Right,
You get
right.
what I mean? But yeah, so the question which now arises is, how did Muhammad reach God in the seven heavens? So then I came across two books that gives me some like esoteric explanation. One is a book called Cannabis Culture, Cannabis in the use of cannabis in Turkic cultures, and one is from a book called Liber 420, which is about cannabis in all the cultures around the world. And in the Islamic story, there's a guy called El Khazir, which means the green one. And he kind of guided Moses to God. And this El Khazir is an intermediary between God and the prophets. So, and yeah, this is like a depiction of him, basically. As you can see, he looks very high. But yeah, but I'm going to read you this. It says, Khizr, the green one, is a key personality in Islamic mystical lore. He is the friend of God, a saint who is venerated by Sufis not only for finding the water of life in the realm of total darkness, but more importantly for disseminating rationally incomprehensible and unattainable esoteric knowledge. Sufi narratives often refer to him as a source for inspiration and insight, and he is also mentioned in the Quran as a guide who initiated Moses into the universe of Gnostic knowledge. So to me, that straight away, I think of Moses and the burning bush and that whole story. By placing cannabis metaphorically on equal standing with Khazir and stating that it always tells the truth, Abdel suggests that if one takes cannabis for his guide in his spiritual quest, he can surely get a glimpse of the universal truth. This view might have been widespread among the Anatolian groups, as blasphemous tale preserved in Dabistan-e-Mahzabib, a 17th century work written by an unknown Parsi order in the religious communities of India, illustrates this very well. But there's also another book that says that this is what Muhammad did to go on that night journey. And it's where I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's too long, but it says here, the famous legend of the night ride of Muhammad to heaven, if we are willing to allow the influence of the night ride upon Dante, we must be prepared to go much further and find a real Dantean sources in literature and even more remote than that, Islam. The tale of the night ride is also retold in Dabistan, which we discussed in chapter 3 for its account of Muhammad's own preparation and use of cannabis as bang. The shamanic event occurs for Muhammad when he is suspended between sleep and waking, which does indicate an altered state of consciousness. This state was induced by 3 cups of the sacred well of water, the Zemzem, which enabled him to ride the mythical beast, the Borak. Drinking of the 3 cups is very reminiscent of what we have read in Zoroastrian accounts where various figures drink a concoction infused with a potent cannabis extract, leaving their bodies in a comatose but releasing their souls to travel. So that's just an interesting part of the story that I came across and I thought I'd share. But again, I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to go through these slides and people can read them. And apparently Prophet Muhammad wore a green turban, and the reason it was green is from they had to squeeze the cannabis juice and his turban turned green, supposedly.
I don't know if this is really connected at all. It's just I was just recently reading something the other night that was talking about how it was Moses was a contemporary, considered the, see if I can find it in my notes. It was like in the Renaissance, Hermes was the contemporary of Moses. Okay, and then but Hermes is Mercury, and Mercury's green. Supposedly, Mercury is the author of the tablet. So,
Totally.
Yeah,
great connection.
Yeah,
totally, Erin. So yeah, obviously we spoke about the lunar influence of Islam earlier, and yeah, this talks about how, you know, like when Muslims prostrate to pray, it says it's like it's saying it's like the different phases of the moon, basically. So I'll just leave that there. I won't, again, I don't want to.
I remember you showed me this before.
Yeah, I've shown you this before, but yeah.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, totally.
But
I never thought of that. We do prostrations in Tibetan Buddhism as well. I never thought about that it could be the phases of the moon. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, also, sorry, I've got to keep moving us so I can read the
my poor little dog's got to go outside for a second.
do your thing. Do your thing, Erin. Do your thing. I'll wait for you. I'll wait anyway.
No, keep going because I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So the next part is basically what it's it talks about like the phalanges of the hand and feet and saying there's 28, and that connects with the 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet and the 28 lunar mansions. And Ibn Arabi also says in that book that you give me that the 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet are symbolic of the 28 lunar mansions, basically. But yeah. So now what I want to do, I'll go ahead, Lily.
Well, I was just going to say right there with those 28 letters in the lunar mansions that it seemed like to me, and I don't know about it yet, but that there was quite a way to work with the energy, like as a practitioner there, like a way to apply our astrology if we only understood it a little better. And also if each mansion matches a letter, then like as far as doing spelling magic and these sorts of things that, you know, I don't know if we could wrap our head around it just a little better, that we may be able to put those things to productive use.
Yeah. So, okay. So what I'm now going to concentrate on is the whole Venus concept in Islam, which is very, very big, because obviously the holy day in Islam is Friday, which corresponds with Venus. That's where Muslims pray on a Friday. It's a very, very holy day. And the name in Islam is called Jummah. And the Ummah in the Jummah, Ummah corresponds with like the womb, the or mum, you know, like womb words, basically. It's got a feminine aspect to it. I read that in here, by the way. I'm not just making that up. So let me see if I can find the exact thing where he mentions it until Erin comes back. Yeah, Lily, you definitely need to buy this book. You would love
Okay.
it. It's like it's just pure astrotheology the whole way through.
I do love that. That's true. I was noticing that also I think it's more like Henri, but I don't know, Henri Corbin.
Yeah,
He also talks about Kadir. And that was one thing that, like, a topic I really thought was interesting, because he kind of says until a Kadir appears, you're a little bit paused on your path as an initiate and mystic.
yeah,
And I mean, and I agree. I'm not, like, of course, like, not downing the idea that had to do with cannabis, very well. Like, that could
yeah,
definitely, like, skyrocket someone into a different kind of hypnagogic state between dream and waking or whatever. But I was just, kind of reflecting in my own practice, about, like, the appearance of a Kadir kind of guide, which is more like an image, and it's like a guardian angel that you just kind of know is there.
yeah,
Right. And so, there's something about that as well. But I loved the pictures that you had of that. That artwork was
yeah,
fantastic with the green and everything. Really cute.
yeah. So yeah, just to so what I'm going to concentrate now is on like the Venus parts of the Islam, the symbology in Islam, and here it says obviously we know the Kaaba has 6 sides, but here it says 6 in numerology is the number that deals with home life, health, and it also number dealing with feminine energy and stands to reason why Allah is related to Venus. 6 deals with the community, and Muslims speak of the Ummah, which means the community. So I just wanted to add that to that. But what I'm going to read now is from a book. It's called Monotheism by someone called Yaul Natan. And what he's explaining is, like how the Muslim women wear the hijab where they cover their head. He explains how it's based on the planet Venus. So I want to read all of this because it's really interesting because it corresponds with like the evening star, the morning star, and how many degrees Venus can be away from the sun and all that. So I'll read this. It says the pre-Islamic women of Mecca considered themselves the women of Tariq, a reference to Venus, because Muhammad and Muslims thought women were under the control of Venus. It was thought that women were ought to act like Venus, while the male stars and planets traverse the skies. Venus stays on the horizon and is only seen briefly compared to most other stars and planets. Moreover, Venus is seen in proximity to the sun or moon when they have just when they happen just to be above or below the horizon in the early morning or later evening. This explains the pagan myths about Venus being a consort or son or daughter of the sun or moon, depending on the culture. That women should act like Venus explains why in most Muslim countries women are not allowed to travel out on their own very far. They hug the horizon, so to speak, and stay near their guardians as Venus stays near the sun. Venus stays close to the sun. Venus is never more than 48 degrees away from the sun. Venus also stays on the ecliptic where the sun and moon and planets travel. In the same way, most Muslim women have no serious employment, career, education, and most often stay on the periphery of society. So that's really interesting how that covering up thing is based on Venus's interaction with the sun. I was like, wow, when I read that. But there's a lot more, but again, there's still quite a bit I need to go through, and I don't want to keep us here for ages. So anyone can just pause this and read it. So next slide. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah, this is just like more symbol. This is like the Kaaba, and at the Kaaba there's like an arc, and it's saying it's like symbolic of like the woman's dome and the head and stuff like that. Also, they're saying that this has some like sexual reference of people going around the Kaaba. So it says the most central focus of Hajj is the Hajar Aswad, or the black stone at the northeast corner of the Kaaba. Racist Muslims teach that the black stone was originally white and became black because of the sin absorbed. However, the black stone is the symbol of the Vedic god Shiva. So when millions of staunch and devout Muslims kiss the black stone, they kiss the sacred emblem of Shiva, or the Yoni. Unbeknownst to these patriarchs, they are performing a ritual associated with sex and reproduction. The ihram, which is the white, represents the semen, and the black stone, shaped like the female reproductive organ, leaves no doubt that this is sexual and deals with the goddess of love, Venus. So again, that's more. Again, I'll let you guys pause it and read. Yeah, this is again just some etymology on the word Venus in Arabic, which is Zara, which corresponds with Sarah, I guess, and like Sarah and Abraham and all that type of stuff. So what else have we got here? Oh yeah, also in this book they mention that, you know how Venus's orbit creates a 5-pointed star around the Earth. So they were saying that when you do 360 divided by 5 equals 72. And 72 is obviously a processional number because the zodiac processes 1 degree every 72 years. But also the Kaaba has 6 sides, which are 360 degrees. So 6 times 360 is 2,160, which is the age of a year, of a zodiacal year as well. So there's also that encoded in it as well. But the guy don't say that in here. He says that it corresponds with the diameter of the moon being 2,160 something. But then I connected it to the ages, to the amount of years in each age, which is 2,160 years. So yeah, you've got that as well. What else have we got? So yeah, it's just again stuff I've explained already, but again I'm just going through it so people can pause it and read it themselves. Where else have we got? Yeah, these are like, there's 5 prayers, 5 daily prayers in Islam, which connect with basically the 5 platonic solids as well. So you've got that, and also where is it? No, it's not this one. No, it basically talks about how each prayer coincides with a particular house in the zodiacal wheel. So like, for example, the first one will be in the 12th house, and then the second one will be in particular houses, basically. I'm sure I've got it on here, but I must have misplaced it. I might come across it. But Lily, this is what I wanted to ask you about. You know, is there a deity in the Zoroastrian theology called Ahriman? Would that connect with Saturn?
I think so, maybe. Very Aquarius, I get the feeling. I mean, I mostly learned about that through Rudolf Steiner, so I can't say that I'm like had from people who practice Zoroastrianism as a religion, and even Persian kind of people who are like authentically telling me this in books or whatever. That's not where I got the information. I got it from Rudolf Steiner. And Ahriman is like a huge character in his whole eschatological drama.
Yeah,
because I would say Saturn. Yeah,
because it's interesting. it's saying, this is from a book called Esoteric Islam, it's saying that Surah 55, which is called Ar-Rahman, like Ariman, is based on Saturn worship, basically. Because I know I've heard you mention Ariman in your videos, and then when I saw this, I was like, oh wow, I want to talk to Lily about this, because she might be able to make the connection. But what's interesting in it being 55 is that Saturn in Gematria comes to 55 as well, which is crazy. So like, yeah, it's again, it's just all there when you look at it all. Yeah, here is like,
I was just gonna say, I mean, unless somebody's really, really deep into studying this stuff, the puzzle pieces are so really, really challenging for the average person to be able to, put all the puzzle pieces together and connect the
yeah,
dots,
yeah, it is a bit. The thing is, it takes a lot of work basically, and a lot of research and a lot of stuff to connect it. But like, it's weird. Like since like it's like Santos has given us the guide,
Yeah.
and now we can like know how to make the connections. Do you get what I mean? And it's just I come across them every single day, and it's crazy. Like for example, you see, it says here Saturn, the Islamic tradition. It says Sawum. That means fasting, right? This Sawum here, that which is an Islamic tradition, connects with Saturn. But Sawum means fasting, and Saturn is about restriction. So again, there's that connection there. But what is even more interesting, as this Islamic tradition, Sawum, is how you say Saturday in Welsh, which also Saturday is Saturn's day. So you've got that connection there as well. So that's how. So go ahead, Lily.
What might be funny is to have me and Erin tell you what salat means based on the moon, and what Hajj means and what zakat means, just based on what we know these planets mean. I bet you I could tell you what each of these days, like what these words mean.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, and I just know jihad is about fighting, and obviously Mars is martial and about fighting, right?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like zakat means charity, and it's connected with Jupiter. So again, it's just it's all there basically. So what else have we got? This is about Saturn, more Saturn stuff. What else have we got? Oh, there is a chapter in the Quran. It's the 53rd chapter, and it's all about the stars. And what this author is saying is that if you read through that chapter, it's explaining each zodiac sign from Aries to Pisces. So 1 second, I just need to move this. Yeah, so for example, Aries, like it says, by the star when it setteth, your comrade erreth not, nor is deceived, nor doth he speak. And it explains each one. When it comes to Gemini, it talks about twins. When it comes to Scorpio, it talks about like sex and all that. It all lines up. Like it's perfect. And even as well, you know how I mentioned the first four chapters of the Quran are based on the fixed signs. Well, the second chapter is called the Bull, and it talks about materialism and whatever. The third chapter is based on Leo and talks about all Leo stuff, and the fourth chapter is called Surah Al-Nisa, which is called Women, which is based on Scorpio, and it talks about inheritances and sexuality and all that stuff. So you can see when you read the actual chapters how it is based on the actual signs as well. So where are we? Lily is it's so funny, you guys. When it like all of them are really long, but when it comes to Pisces, it's just really short. But the translation is rather prostrate yourselves before Allah and serve Him. So you guys are the guys. Just short and simple.
And the rest of it's all our imagination.
Yeah.
And fear.
But what else have we got here? Okay. So these are the Islamic beads, basically, and there are 99 of them, which is 3 times 33, basically. So, and Allah, they say Allah, there's 99 names of Allah, basically. So 99 comes to 18, which comes to 9. Again, it's like the 9 thing. Yeah, these are the names.
Do they is that just happens to be a green set, or are they always?
No, that just happens to be green. Yeah, yeah. There's different colors, but also there's a slide I forgot to put in here. Is that according to the Islamic religion, when you die and you go to heaven, you always remain. Once you get to heaven, you remain at the age of 33, and yeah, you have like white woolly hair and all this stuff. I've got the post of it on Facebook, but I swear I screenshotted it on here. But 1 second, I might have just gone past it. Let's have a look. Did I go past it? Oh. No, I think I must have just forgot to put it in there, basically. But yeah, there's so many other things. You know, like literally, I have about 300 slides. I narrowed it down to like 90. But yeah, I can't think if there's any other things that come to my mind at the minute. But that's pretty much it. Like what I need to present. I don't know. I'll stop sharing my screen now. And yeah,
I mean, it's
that
just
was it.
like mounds and mounds of evidence,
Yeah.
it's all connected.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope people watching this enjoyed it and made sense of it. And like I said, the aim of this video is to enlighten people. It's not to go against people or to say people's religions are wrong or whatever. It's just that I wish that people can understand it for what it really is, rather than just just going along with it. Because one thing I hate is seeing my fellow human being deceived. Yeah. To believe something or to think something is like when it isn't. Do you get what I mean? And like it's so sad that a lot of people don't do comparative studies to see how connected everything really is. Because one thing that winds me up when I watch like religious debates and like sometimes some Muslim people, they talk about oneness of God and you shouldn't work like God is one and we're all one, but yet they're so divisive to other people's views. So it's kind of a contradiction in its sense, like in a sense that like everything will be different because we all have different cultures and different ways of seeing things. So the Indians will interpret it in a different way. The Jews will interpret it in one way. The Aboriginals will interpret in another way. The Tibetans or whoever it is, they'll have their own cultural or traditional twists on it. But ultimately, it's all the same story. And the more people realize that, I think the more we will become unified as an earth, and everyone on earth will have more respect for each other, rather than saying, "Oh, it's either my religion or all the other ones are wrong," or, for example. So, it's just all connected. And once you see that, I don't know, it gives me goosebumps and makes me happy to see that everyone really is pushing the same thing, but they're not realizing it ultimately.
Yeah. And in my opinion, it is all based on astrology, all of it, you know?
Yeah, it's based on astrology, occult sciences, everything. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, in this book, it mentions that, you have like the Masonic, like the Shriners who wear the hat with the moon and star.
Uh-huh.
Well, they say that before they do a particular, I can't remember the page. Sorry, it's that's why I don't want to look through it. Actually, one second. One second. Basically, what it's saying is that the Shriners, when they do a particular ritual, they go up 7 steps and down 7 steps. And they say the 7 steps represents the 7 turnings of the Kaaba and the 7 verses in the first chapter of the Quran, which are the 7 principles of Islam and stuff like that. Like, it mentions that in this book. But let me see if I can find.
I don't know why, but you guys, I have the nerdiest brain ever. And since we keep saying this, I'm like, I said I have the nerdiest brain ever. And because we keep saying 7 and Abraham, and my brain, like, for like an hour has been going, Father Abraham had 7 sons, and 7 sons had Father Abraham. You guys remember that song? Did you guys, your parents maybe didn't
I've
take you
never
to
heard
church.
that, no. Makes sense though.
Yeah, well,
there's also some other connection. I have all these weird random little notes in my phone that there was something else I was just
okay. 1-1.
We're all like, okay, now what was this other thing I was gonna look up?
1-1-16. 1-1. Oh, 1-1-16. Where are you? Where is it? Well, I'll just read it once. It says, the Shriner order attempts to combine some of the teachings of Christianity with the teachings of Islam. The Shriner's ritual states our alliance or our right of our mystic shrine is an ancient, honorable, benevolent, and secret. It is devoted to the cause of justice, truth, and mercy. It is as ancient as the cornerstone of Muhammad's temple in Mecca, and a secret as modern Muslim vow that bound to the tribe of Arabia to Allah and their God, as an honorable Christian, and the tenets to which is dedicated when assumed cannot be eschewed or cast aloof. Although Shriners attempt to combine both religions, their teachings is predominantly based on the history of the Prophet Muhammad's teachings of Islam and the symbolisms of Kaaba and Hajj. Where does it say about the 7 thing? I know I read it in here. 1 second.
I did not know that.
Here we go.
I'm surprised you didn't.
It says this talks about that first chapter in the Quran, which I'm saying has 7 verses, which is the 7 everything, 7 days, 7 planets, 7 chakras. It says the prayer is called the opening. Al-Fatiha is the opening of the 7 seals. The Bible says the book was sealed and was taken to several men to see if they could open the book of the 7 seals. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof. 1 second, 1 second. I'll read this last bit and then it is in this book though, but it says in the Bible, John the Revelator says he wept much because no one was found upon and read the book. With the coming of the Prophet Muhammad, he must have stopped weeping because the hadith reports that during Muhammad's ascension to the seventh heaven, he met Jesus and John the Baptist, and he was not weeping. In fact, he bestowed the peace and blessing of Allah upon the Prophet Muhammad.
I gotta get that book. I'm trying to remember. Isn't there seven principles of Hermeticism too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just wild.
Anyway, it is in here. If someone reads this book, I just don't want to waste your time looking for it. But yeah, that's what I've got to present, guys. There's a lot more, but again, we could be here for years talking about it. Do you get what I'm saying? So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then we probably should have said this in the beginning, but if people want to find, so if somebody's watching this on my channel, where do they find you guys?
I'm at Conscious Minds TV.
Like if they want to connect with you, just find you on Facebook or something.
Yeah, you can email me at consciousmindstv@gmail.com. If you want any of these PDFs or any of these slides, I don't mind sharing them. I'm not like trying to keep them and be all exclusive.
Yeah, you're really good about that.
So like, yeah, just message me if you want to ask any questions, or even if you feel like you want to correct me and say, no, that's wrong, it's this way, message me. I'm open to being corrected or to hearing other people's interpretation, because it's not about me trying to be a smart ass, it's about me learning and evolving. So I'm willing to take other people's information as well.
That's one of the reasons I love you. And Lily, is your website still up and running?
Yeah, I have it up at earthstarOM.com, but you can always find me through Mehmet and Erin because we're truly friends. So that's so nice to meet you guys.
Exactly.
And I love you guys, and I've missed you very much. And it was super awesome to hear your inspiration and everything you've been learning, Mehmet. And I'm so excited for you about your new opportunities and things in your other world as well.
Likewise to you guys as well.
All right, well, I'm going to end the recording here. We'll probably just chit chat for another few minutes.
Cool.
Okay. All right.